Hi, I am Russell and I'm 32 years old. I run a restaurant with my business partner, Steve. We own a restaurant in the main city area, and it's doing pretty good. People love the food we serve and being in a prime location. It is crowded most of the time. Life's good. I own a successful business, and I live in a neighborhood where people actually care about each other. Speaking of my neighborhood, I have a neighbor, Stephanie. We're good friends now, but things were not always like this. A few years ago, I thought she was mean and rude. I didn't like her back then. But her husband had passed away, so I always had a soft corner for her, I guess. She moved into the neighborhood with her husband, but after the husband had passed away, she had been living all alone. The entire neighborhood tried to get along with her, but she never came to any social events ever. She always used to stay at home and only went out for her work. She and her husband used to work in the same office. They started as colleagues and eventually got married. One day I saw Stephanie walking down the street and there were two creepy guys following her. At first, it didn't look like those guys were following her, but then I saw one of them pointing at her. I knew something was fishy. I was in my car and slowly started following the guys. I just wanted to make sure Stephanie was okay, but since I didn't know her personally, I couldn't just go up to her and tell her that the guys behind her were following her. She would have never believed me, so I decided to follow them quietly. And then it happened. Both guys walked up to her and started flirting and forcing themselves on her. It was evident by their actions that they were drunk. I drove up to them and parked my car right in front of them. I honked the horn and flashed my headlights to let the guys know I was there. They screamed at me and told me to go away, but I stayed there. I drove the car closer to them, and they slowly started moving away. I honked again and they ran off. Once they were gone, I got out of the car and walked up to Stephanie. "Are you okay?" "What do you think you're doing?" "I saw those guys bothering you, so I came." "Just go away, will you?" "What? I thought you needed help." "Did I call out for help?" "No, you didn't, but it was evident from what was happening that those two guys were forcing themselves on you." "Listen, you don't need to help me ever again. I am not some helpless woman who can't take care of herself." "What is the matter with you, lady? It was clear that you needed help. If I hadn't come, we don't know what those guys would have done." "Who do you think you are? Do you think you're some kind of superhero whose job is to protect everyone in the city? I had everything under control. I didn't need your help." "Well, it certainly didn't look like you had everything under control." "Just go away." "All right, I'll go." I got into my car and went away. I was so pissed at her. I was expecting a thanks, but she was just so full of herself. It got on my nerves. I decided even if I ever saw her getting mugged or in any other trouble, I would never come to help her. It was just so weird. You go up to help someone and they push you away like you were the one to blame. I didn't like her, but this just made me hate her. The only thing that stopped me from snapping on her was that she had just lost her husband. I calmed myself down and drove home. The next morning, I saw Stephanie outside her house taking out the trash. Now, I'm the kind of guy who would say good morning to his neighbors with a big smile on his face, but that day, I didn't. I saw Stephanie take out the trash. I didn't even look at her. I was so mad at her. We had never talked before, and now I had decided that if she ever needed a neighbor to help her out with something, I wasn't going to be the one. A few weeks passed by and I forgot about it. One day I had a date with someone I had met a few days prior in a coffee shop. I went on the date, and I'm not going to lie, it was quite fun. We went ice skating and then went to a restaurant and had some Japanese food. It was a good date. As I came back home from the date and was parking my car in my garage, Stephanie came up to me out of nowhere. I had my window glasses rolled up. She told me to roll down the glass, and I did. She told me to come with her to her house. She wanted to show me something. I was confused. She was acting sketchy. I told her that I had something important to take care of and I was running late, but she insisted that I come with her to her house. She said it would only take a few minutes. I agreed. I parked my car and we went to her home. She invited me in. She showed me a picture of her husband and told me that was her husband passing away recently. She just wasn't in the right mind and she snapped at me. She wanted to apologize for it, but she also told me something else that shook me to my core. "Can I get you something? Water or a cup of coffee?" "No, I'm good. Listen, I'm running late. Could you tell me what this is about?" "Listen, I wanted to apologize for that night. You tried to help me and I snapped at you. I guess losing my husband recently has taken a toll on me. I wasn't in the right mind the other day and snapped at you. I'm sorry about it. Yeah, that was something. I just came to help you out. You know that, right? I know, Russell. You're a good man and everybody likes you in our neighborhood. I am sorry for what I did. It's all right. You must be dealing with a lot lately. I understand why you acted the way you acted. It still does not justify how I behaved. I am sorry. It's all right, trust me. I am not mad at you. By the way, who were those guys? I've seen them here in our neighborhood a couple of times. Do you know these guys? I do. They are just some men who work for my boss. They work for your boss? Yes, my husband and I used to work in the same place. My husband developed a gambling habit and lost a lot of my boss's money. Since he's not around anymore, he wants me to pay, so he sends his goons to scare me. What? You should go to the cops. And what should I tell them? That my late husband was a gambling addict and cost our boss a fortune. I don't want people to remember him as a gambling man. But that still doesn't mean that he can harass you like that. I am working for him. I save a little every month and pay him up. But that's not why I called you here. I just wanted to apologize to you about that night. I'm sorry for being so cold. You were just trying to help me out. It's all right. You don't need to worry about that. And you can always tell me if you're in trouble. That's what neighbors do. We have to have each other's back. That's true. Thank you for helping me that day. She made me a cup of coffee and we talked a little more and then I came back home. But the things she said, I just couldn't get them out of my head. I was thinking about how she could face all of this, all by herself. She had just lost her husband, and her boss was constantly harassing her to pay him up. I felt bad for her. A couple of days went by and we became friends. I used to call Stephanie whenever I used to have my parents over at my house for dinner. I just wanted to make her feel that she was not alone. She used to smile and laugh a lot when she used to talk to my parents. I guess she just missed her family. She was staying all alone and none of the neighbors invited her anymore. We eventually became good friends after some time. One day she was trying to move a big piece of furniture and it was quite heavy. She came to my house to ask for help. I went to her home and we picked up the big couch she had. She wanted to move it to the top floor of her house. We managed to move the furniture somehow. It was quite heavy and she certainly wouldn't have been able to do it all on her own. She thanked me and made me some lemonade. We were just having lemonade when her doorbell rang. She opened the door and there was this creepy looking old man in a blue suit standing at her door. He had 3 men with him. I recognized one of them. It was one of the guys who were forcing themselves on Stephanie the other day. The man came in without asking. Harold, what are you doing here? You haven't paid this month. I'll pay you once I get paid, trust me. I just need a few more days. I should have never trusted your husband with my money. He lost it all. He was useless. Hey, you can't just enter someone's home like that. Who is this clown? Is he your new boyfriend? He is my neighbor. I called him because I wanted to move some furniture. He came here to help me out. Oh, he's such a good neighbor. But he does have a big mouth. Listen, mister. You can't just come in here and threaten Stephanie like that. Actually, I can. Her late husband owed us a lot of money, and she has to pay for him now. But that still doesn't mean... Russell, please. I think you should go home now. I can handle this. No, you can't. He's clearly harassing you. Please, Russell, just go back to your home. We can talk about this later. You don't need to get mixed up in all of this. That's right. It's none of your business, Russell. I promise, Harold. I'll pay up as soon as I get paid. I always do, don't I? You can trust me on this one. All right. I guess I have no choice but to trust you. You better pay up my money. All of it. I will, Harold. I will. Trust me. All right. I'll go for now. And tell your friend Russell here not to run his mouth too much. He might end up getting into trouble. Please, Harold, just leave. I'll pay you the money as soon as I can. All right. Harold left, and Stephanie told me to never get involved in this ever again. I told her that she needed to go to the cops, but she told me to go back to my home. It just made me more angry. I left, I came back to my house, grabbed a can of beer, and sat on the couch, trying to calm myself. I just couldn't fathom how a man could just show up at her house in broad daylight and threaten her. What happened to the law and everything? I was so mad that I went back to Stephanie's house. I knocked on her door and she came out with her teary eyes. Hey, you don't need to be afraid of anyone. Harold can't just come up here whenever he wants and threaten you like that. You don't understand, Russell. It's not that easy. Stephanie, listen. You are not liable to pay your husband's debt. It's the law. You don't have to pay Harold anything. I know, Russell. I know all about it. Then why are you letting Harold do this to you? Just go to the cops. I'll come with you if you want. It's not that easy, Russell. I know I am not liable to pay my husband's debt, but my husband did take money from him. And if I cannot pay him back, he'll just take the house legally to recover his money. This house is all I have. I don't want Harold to take away my husband's house. This house meant so much to him. I can't just let him take this. Isn't there anything else we can do? You cannot let him do this to you. I know you're just worried about me, Russell, but you don't need to get mixed up in all of this. I can handle it. I am paying him every month, and eventually, I'll pay him all of his money. You can handle it? All by yourself? That's exactly what you said when those two guys came to harass you the other day. You need help, Stephanie. I can help you out. We can get legal help and see what we can do about it. I appreciate you helping me, but trust me, I can handle this on my own. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me, but I don't want you to get mixed up in this. All right, if you want that, I won't convince you anymore. I hope you can work this out. I can, Russell. Just let it go. All right, fine. I realized that nothing I said could possibly convince her to go to the cops. I told her she could come to me if she needed any help. She thanked me and I went home. I was still a little angry, but I couldn't do anything about it, so I let it go. That day, I called up Steve, my business partner, and told him everything that was going on with Stephanie. Hey, Steve. Hey, what's up, man? I just wanted to talk to you about something. Go ahead. Do you remember Stephanie, my neighbor? Yeah, what about her? Do you remember I told you about the day when two guys were forcing themselves on her and I helped her? Yeah, and she snapped at you for helping her, right? It's not like that. The guys who were harassing her were working for her boss. What? Working for her boss? What do you mean, working for her boss? Yeah, apparently her husband had taken a debt from her boss and lost all of the money gambling. Her boss and his men came to threaten Stephanie at her house today. What? Are you serious? How do you know about all this? Stephanie told me everything. She should go to the cops. That's what I've been telling her, but she refuses. She thinks that she would lose her house if she went to the cops. Her boss would just take over her house to recover his debt. Whose house is it? It's her husband's. All right, well, that could happen. People take ownership of a borrower's properties if the borrower fails to pay back. She could end up losing the house. How's she paying him back then? She's just partly paying him every month from her salary. How much does she owe? I don't know. Well, it must be a pretty hefty amount if she's worried about the house. I guess so. Is there something we could do? I don't know, but if she's not willing to do anything about it, I doubt we can do anything. She has to be the one to take a stand for herself. But she could be risking her house. Really? I'm not an expert, but I think it's possible. Can't we do something about it? I don't think so, Russell. Just let it go. If she says she can handle it, I think she can. Plus, there's nothing we can do to help her if she doesn't want our help. Just let it go, man. I guess you're right. Steve is one of the wisest men I know, and if he thinks this way, I thought maybe he's right. Maybe there was nothing we could do to help Stephanie. A couple of months went by and nothing happened. I used to talk to Stephanie and it seemed like she had everything under control. I hadn't seen Harold and his men in our neighborhood ever since that incident took place. One day I had Steve over at my place to watch a game and have some beer together. We were just watching the game together when we heard loud noises coming from Stephanie's house. I called Stephanie to check if everything was all right, but she told me she wasn't home. I didn't want her to get worried. Me and Steve went outside to get a clearer view. We could see from the windows that some people were inside the house. We didn't do anything stupid. We called 911 and told them that there could be a possible robbery happening in the neighborhood. They told us they're sending a unit there. I called Stephanie and told her that some people were inside her house and they could possibly be robbing her home. She told me to call 911. I said I already did. She had gone to her parents' home, which was quite far. She told me she was coming back. Shortly after the call, 2 police cars arrived. They went near Stephanie's house and yelled at the people inside to come out of the house, slowly, with their hands up in the sky. After a few minutes, 5 men came out of the house. It was Harold and his men. I was shocked to see them come out of Stephanie's house. The cops apprehended all 5 of them and took them to the police station. I called Stephanie and told her about what had happened. She went silent for like a minute or so. I could sense that she was too stunned by the news. I told her to come to the police station. Me and Steve would meet her there. After half an hour, Stephanie pulled up to the police station with her parents. They came up to me and asked me what had happened. I told them everything. Her parents didn't seem to have a clue about Harold or the debt. She took me and Steve to the side. She didn't want her parents to know about it. She told me she was worried that the police would find out about the debt and she could lose her home. Steve told her not to worry about the home now, but about her safety. Stephanie, just listen to me. Worrying about your house should be the last of your concerns right now. Your safety is at stake now. If Harold and his men could do something like this, we have no idea what they're capable of. But... I know you're scared and it's okay to be scared, but it's high time you tell the cops everything about how Harold and his men have been harassing you. You don't understand. I could end up losing my house. I understand that very well, but you'll have to do this now. These men seem very dangerous. They were robbing your house. What if you were in the house? I am sure your husband wouldn't want you to risk your life over the house. He's absolutely right, Steph. It's time that you go to the cops about this. Yeah, you could end up losing your house, but these men were trying to rob your house. They come in broad daylight to threaten you? You have no idea what else they're capable of. Russell and I will help you. We'll hire the best lawyers to fight your case. If you end up losing the house and your job, we'll help you get a new job and a new place to stay. But risking your life over this house would be foolish. It wouldn't be your house anymore if something were to happen to you. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, I do, but I'm scared. It's okay to be scared, trust me. But you need to do this for your own sake. Russell and I are there for you. We'll get you through all this. All right, I guess I should go tell the cops everything. Stephanie decided to go to the cops and tell them about everything. We filed a complaint against Harold and his men for everything they did. We hired the best lawyers to build our case. We didn't want Stephanie to lose her house. The court passed an order to investigate the case. It can take the court years to pass the final judgment on a case, but the lawyers had built a very strong case for us. The entire procedure took about a year, and the court found Harold and his men guilty. They were sent to prison, and turns out that there were no legal documents that could possibly verify that Stephanie's husband had taken money from Harold. And how could there be? Harold lent his money to Stephanie's husband for gambling, thinking he could double or triple returns on his investment. Since there was no concrete document of this transaction ever happening, Harold could not prove that Stephanie's husband had taken money from him. Turns out, he was just bluffing all along. The cops charged Harold and his men with many offenses, such as harassment, invasion, robbery, and much more. They are sent to prison for a very long time. The moment Stephanie got to know about Harold bluffing, she broke down. All this time, she had been scared of him for nothing. She was relieved that Harold and his men were being punished, that justice was being served. It has been 2 years now since Harold and his men were sent to prison, and they are going to be there for a very long time. And as for Stephanie, she seems like a completely different person now. She seems confident and fearless. I guess all of this made something click within her. She is completely changed now. She invites the entire neighborhood to her house for dinner every year to celebrate her late husband's birthday. It makes me so happy to see how an antisocial woman who had lost her husband transformed into this strong and confident individual who loves having people in her house for social events. She always tells me and Steve about how grateful she is for everything we have done for her. But honestly, It was worth everything we did to see her the way she is now. We're happy that we could help her, and also put guys like Harold behind bars. I guess putting bad guys away makes Steve and Stephanie some kind of superhero, doesn't it?